Hello, hi, how are you? This is Coach Aaron Saft in the Running His Life podcast, and have a really great interview here with Rachel Blinn talking about the Tour de Geants, and to be respectful of the time she put into this interview, I'm going to put that first, but I also had a great question come in from a fellow cross-country course coach. His name is Matt, and Matt is asking about doing the on the sevens or on the eights or on the nines workout, which is a long run with some VO2 intervals in it, and how do I use that and why do I use that, which is a great question, especially since I'm a big fan of taking long, slow, easy long runs. So I want to answer Matt's question, but I'm going to save that for the end of this episode. So we'll catch up after the interview with Rachel. I want to thank her for her time and all she put into this, especially wishing her a huge congratulations for her second completion of the Tour de Geants 330K. So here is Rachel.
Well, here I am with Rachel, and we are gonna butcher some Italian names
Absolutely.
and talk about the Tour de Geants. So, Rachel, we've kind of talked in the past, but this was your second go at Tour. You had finished last year and came back this year. So, first, what brought you back to Tour de Geants this year?
Yeah, so last year was just a very remarkable experience, and I just remember leaving the race and coming back to the United States and just I was just in awe kind of the whole event. And I knew, of course, I'm always the type that wants to push themselves further and see like what I'm capable of. So I knew that I had last year I ran it in 132 hours, and in order to run or qualify for Tour de Glaciers, you had to do it in under 130 hours. So I just felt like, if I can come back, then I'm going to try for that, and it's just like the race is like you can't really describe it. It's like no other thing I've ever experienced. So I just kind of held on to that magic and wasn't able to process it very well because the hurricane hit, and there was just like it just kind of went from being in this magical state to okay, now there's this horrible natural disaster, So once that kind of faded, I put my name in the lottery again, and I was like, I'm gonna try for this, and if I get in, then it means it's meant to be, and I'll give it another shot. So um, yeah, that's the that was the rationale behind signing up for a second year. And I like to do really hard things, and this was a really hard thing,
Yes.
which I definitely forgot about until I was in the race. I was like, wow, this is this is something.
Um, Touch a little bit more on the Tour de Glaciers because not everybody's going to be familiar with that.
Right. Okay. Tour de Glaciers, it is 450 kilometers, which is like around 300-ish miles. It is it starts a few days before Tour de Géant, and it's uncrewed. I don't know. You can there's crew, but the course is not marked. So Tour de Géant is one big loop, and Tour de Glaciers is a loop as well, but it goes just like way, way higher altitude. You have to be very, very confident. You have to. I heard the cutoffs are pretty tight, but it's just a lot more just like in the wilderness, like in the mountains. And like I said, you have to qualify. So if you run Tour de Géant in under 130 hours, you can run Tour de Glaciers, but it's like it's pretty intense, especially without the course being marked. So you have to be good at like navigating and finding your way and following maps and stuff like that, which can prove pretty challenging when you're 150 miles into a race or something like that, and you're tired and all of this. So it is definitely like a beast of a race, which has appeal to me, but it's just like if I did ever sign up for that race, I feel like that is something that I could potentially, it's like, would I really be able to finish this? So I think that's the allure of it, allure, whatever I can pronounce.
You got it.
Yeah.
Um, So, the other interesting part of this too was you did not initially gain entry through the first lottery. And this race has something a little bit different in that they actually had a second lottery. So, can you talk about that in the entry process and kind of describe, what happened and how you eventually got in?
Yeah, I put my name in the lottery initially, and for some reason, I was under the impression, or I think it used to be that if you finished Tour de Geant, you had automatic reentry. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get in, no problem. But I did not get that email that said you got in. So I was like, dang it, you know. I also had a way of looking through like who got in beforehand. I don't remember what I did, but I did some serious investigating, and I was like, I did not get in. I see my name is not highlighted. So I accepted it, you know, I processed it. I was like, all right, this fall is going to look a little bit different than I had hoped for, but that's okay. And then I think it was a few weeks later, I got an email. It wasn't even in my regular email. It was in like the promotional email section of my, yeah, inbox. And I got in. It was the second lottery. It was because on the first one, if people didn't register, then they hold a second drawing. So I guess a lot of people did not register, and I was just like, I was really my mind was blown that I got in on the second one. I was like, yes, you know, this is amazing. It's definitely meant to be now. Here we go. Very
And
exciting.
and it's also interesting because it's such a global race in that like
Mhm.
there's so many different nationalities represented. I believe it's the U.S. is only allotted 60 spots, right, within the lottery. Is that
Yeah.
that's right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which is kind of crazy to think about. Now, I don't know how many Americans enter the lottery. And as you said, you dug deep because one thing we can say about this is the website is not very forthcoming with useful
No.
information or
Not
finding
at all.
any kind of useful information. You really do have to dig, and there's multiple websites, which is extremely confusing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think we can safely say that like the communications are very tough because there is no, like normally RDs send out like an email, like here's all your
Mhm.
information, here's, packet pickup and all this good stuff. Here's what you need. Because you were the one that was like, hey, like, not for nothing, but like you need 100 euros to grab your GPS and it has to be cash, right? Like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that was like nowhere. That was never communicated, Like I mean
Right.
that's pretty darn important, right? And
Yeah, it
like
is.
so I mean, but none of that was communicated. So
Mhm.
very different in that regard, right? Like the
Yeah,
race communications were very limited.
it's
Um,
terrible. Yeah.
but like talk about your logistics. I talked about my logistics on my podcast
Hmm.
when I talked about tour, but you flew in someplace else and your arrangements were a bit different from mine. So just so people know the options, talk about how you got there and where you went through all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, well, last year I flew into Milan, and that was about 2 hours because the Mont Blanc tunnel is closed for whatever reason. Oh,
Right. Yeah.
unfortunately, for construction and stuff. So this year I flew into Geneva, Switzerland, which is about, I think, about 3 hours from Cormier. But I flew in, and Bill Flanagan picked me up. He was my crew person because he was already in Europe because he had run CCCs. But he picked me up. We stayed in where did we stay? Cognier for one night, which was really nice. Which is where one of the life bases is.
Mhm.
So it was cool to be able to see it without running, without being like really tired and dazed and confused.
Right.
And then so we stayed there for one night, and then we went to Cormier. The reason we did that was just because we didn't have the Airbnb until the next day. So, but it was nice to kind of like travel around and see Geneva and all of that. But yeah, we were in Cormier. Our Airbnb was really close to the start line, which was cool. And we were there until the start of the race. So just kind of prepping and getting mentally and physically prepared. But it was definitely a good start because I knew some people from last year that were in town. Like Anne, you met Anne
Yep.
and Dave.
Yep.
This was her third year running it, so we were able to meet up with you and with them, and it was a very social social like lead up, which was
Yeah.
interesting.
Um, you you proclaimed that you are not a great organizer
That is
and
absolutely correct.
and
Yeah.
not a great prepper. Um,
Mm.
the surprise for me, because when I watched the videos, I thought the bags were going to be bigger. You're like we get one drop bag and that
Mhm.
travels around the course. What did your drop bag look like aside from the mandatory kit? Like what did you include in there?
Um, yeah, I mean, I had a bunch of nutrition in it, just bagged per life base, of course, which takes up a lot of weight and space. And then I had a pair of shoes that I just had two pairs for the whole race. One I was wearing, then one I would change into at every life base. And then I had a bag of socks, a bag of like shorts, a bag of just t-shirts to change into, so a bag of long sleeve shirts. It was really just like all the because I wanted to change clothes at every life base, like undergarments, all of that, just to be fresh. I had, I think my crampons, that's mandatory, but definitely was not necessary this year. um, Other than that, yeah, I think just some snacks. I tried to buy groceries in the US and brought them over so that I had some things that I could kind of fall back on more. Because last year the aid station food didn't necessarily satisfy. But other than that, just the basics. I tried to keep it as kind of as simple as possible, but it was still hard to close the bag. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, and you have some dietary restrictions, like just for those that may be facing similar restrictions, like talk about
Yeah.
the aid station fare and what you did to kind of circumnavigate the problems you faced last year.
Yeah. So last year I was just very uh just nutritionally deprived because I am a vegetarian and the aid stations there do not necessarily cater to vegetarians in a nutritional way. Like you can eat crackers or cakes or cheese. And I mean, they have pasta and stuff like that. So you just have to either really just accept that that's what you're going to be eating for the next 5 days or however long you're out there. Um, but that's kind of a hard thing to accept. So if you have crew, it's good to kind of get them to be on board with the things that you're gonna eat. Like Bill went out, he got me a pizza at Cognac. That's kind of the classic pizza spot. Because they have a restaurant that's like right down the road from the life base. But he knew that I like needed protein and stuff like that, so he would get me a lot of like protein, like protein drinks, or yogurt drinks and stuff like that. I really like because it was hot this year, so I really fell back on like I like smoothies and like drinkable calories, liquid calories. So we just kind of made sure to have that on deck at every life base and aid station that he turned up at. And yogurt, just like stuff like that that would go down really quickly and easily. Um, and I just bought like what did I bring? Like Pringles and just stuff that I would be like excited to eat and that would like that I would be excited about during the race.
Yeah.
But it was easier that like I'd still say nutritionally, it's always just so hard when you're out there for so long to really like hit that like it's hard because it's just so many days, so many hours, so much food that you can think like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do great because I brought all these different things, and then none of those things interest you, and that's just kind of typical ultra stuff. But I think I did okay in terms of food. Like I think I did better this year for sure. I forced more pasta down, which it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad this time around. I think it was just like knowing that that's kind of like what you have to do is just to get the calories down as much as you can. But I definitely did make some nutritional errors during the race, but we can get into that. Like when I was climbing, I would just stop eating for like 4 hours and I'd be like, oh, I'll eat at the top, but the top wasn't for 4 more hours. So not super smart, but rookie mistake right there.
Understood though.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, it was difficult, especially as you gained in elevation, like
Mhm.
your heart rate would climb, respiration's getting harder.
Yeah.
It's hard to convince yourself to try to do anything. Um,
Right.
carrying all this stuff, what did you go with for gear? What was your pack?
Well, I had the Solomon 12 liter, Advanced Skin 12, which I think in the future, if I were to run this race again or were to do an event like this, I would try to get maybe the 15 just for more space.
Mhm.
I think I did fine with it, but the back was like super packed, which wasn't, it was a little nerve wracking, but it's just, you need the gear. Like you need the hat, the gloves, just in case. So, but yeah, I mean, I had that, and then I started off the race with just 2 bottles of water, which wasn't, I like ran out. So I was like, oh yeah, last year I think I did this and it was fine, but I had Bill bring me another bottle just because I just wanted to have that as a backup. Um, and yeah, lots of calories. I always had hat, gloves, waterproof gloves, rain pants, raincoat, um, long sleeve shirt. Um, I think that is kind of what I kept in the back, and then emergency blanket. I think that's it.
Puffy? You're puffy?
There might have been more, but puffy jacket, puffy jacket I had on me a few times, but I was like, this is just so unnecessary this year that I can't force myself to keep this on me. There were times when I used it though, like at the aid stations, I would use it. I don't think I ever used it when I was actually running on the trail though. So or
Right.
walking, whatever I
Yeah.
was doing.
Very
um, yeah.
right on. Let's just talk a little bit about training. Anything in training that you did that you really took confidence from?
Um, I think just like I did, it was like a 32 or 30 mile run. And it was had about, I think it was 12,000 feet,
Well,
something
yeah.
like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But I just did repeats because that was the easiest way I could think of getting that amount of climbing and that amount of miles in Bullens Creek. So I literally ended up doing, I think it was 2 mile repeats up and down for 32 miles, or 30 miles, which was just like, it wasn't bad. I'm really good at doing repeats. I don't mind them. But yeah, I felt really good in that little block of, I did that. And then the next day I did 18 miles, I think with 8,000 feet. So it was just like the more climbing you get, it's just the better you feel. Maybe I'm a little bit tired, but um, yeah, I just feel stronger once I know, like, okay, I can do this. I can hit this number, in this amount of miles. Like
Yep.
it's kind of hard to figure it all out, but yeah, I mean, it's all about the climbing in this race. So getting as much climbing as you can get is what really matters. So
Yeah.
yeah, I felt confident the more climbing I did, which I did plenty.
Yeah.
So
And you were really good about your strength training too. You really did good job
yeah,
being consistent with your strength training, which I think,
thank you.
yeah, no, that was
I've been prioritizing. I think it's a huge component because in this race, if you're not strong in every single way, then like if there's weaknesses, then they're gonna become glaring. So I've been, yeah, it's good to incorporate that.
yes. And then your hiking was also on point. You'd always go up to like Grassy and do
Hmm.
it's on Grassy.
Yeah.
Like Grassy is what? It's how much is it like 1,000
Um, it's like 1,000. It's like 800 for the longer side from like
shut in?
Southridge. And then because the parkway wasn't open too much until towards the end, so I couldn't park at Sleepy Gap.
Mhm.
So it's like if you do all the three sides that I do, it's about I think 2,000 feet, which is pretty good.
Mhm.
And then I would go to Green Top too, a bit more. A bit more frequently,
Training.
which is a lot more challenging than grassy for sure.
Yeah. And it
Because
replicates tour a lot better so far as
yes,
steepness and terrain. So
for sure. So
yeah.
that's kind of with the parkway closed, I would go a little I like to go to Green Top because you could actually basically drive up to it.
Yeah.
So Yeah, there were a few different options this year instead of just grassy, which was cool.
Yeah.
But it was because of you. I remember you told me about it last year, I think, or this
Yeah.
past.
Yep. And Boland's was that was a great option because although it's probably not as technical as some
Hmm.
of the stuff we did at Tour, it still was like, there were still some rocks and such, but it gave you the option to run down more often and kind of,
Yeah.
beat up your quads a little bit more, which we stress the climbing, but I think the descending is also
Mm,
part of this. Like, the
it
Tour,
is.
and that's what ate me up was, the descent. So no, I think you were very well balanced in everything you did so far as like the run training, the climbing, the descending, the
Mhm.
strength training, like the hiking. So you really encompassed it really well. Um, and going into it, it's it's an intimidating, but having done it, what were you thinking going into it? Did you feel pretty confident? I know, like in the back of your mind, you were thinking about potentially qualifying for Tour de Glaciers, but
Yeah.
did you have like a timetable or
Mhm.
anything like that to kind of be like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, and I know you're not one to to really do those kind of things ahead of time, but did you have something like that?
No, I did not. So what I did was, like I said, not very organized when it comes to goals because the lead up to the race was very, like, I'm in school and I work full time, so it's hard for me. It's hard for me to make those timetables. Oftentimes I do, but I did not this year in any capacity. I was like, well, I'm just going to try to do the things that I know will save me a bit of time and see if they make a difference because and just going in with the knowledge of the course and knowing like what I'm getting myself into made it so that I was like, well, I think I will automatically be able to go a little bit faster just because I know certain sections and I know, like, for example, I got my feet taped the day before the race versus at the 50K mark, which was smart for sure. I think so, but I ended up getting my feet retaped like two times during the race. So it's like I don't know if it was smart or not, but I was, just trying to use some certain tactics going in, but no timetables. But we started comparing. I think Bill, who was my crew, he was more time like aware of the timing of things than I was. And during the race, I was like, oh, last year it was becoming morning at this point, and it's still like you know, it's still dark, so I'm
Yeah,
doing pretty well.
right.
I was able to make those comparisons, but I was I wanted to hit this goal, but I was also not like super like malicious about it, I guess.
Anything that you took from last year that like you were like, well, if I were to do this again, like, I'm gonna do X, Y, or Z. Did you have anything like you learned from last year to that you brought forward to this year?
Yeah, I mean, like the feet taping thing for sure, and then I think just that's why kind of the food thing. I just knew that I needed to bring in more food options and um, just do better with nutrition, which yeah, which I think I did okay at. And I think it's just the knowledge of the climbs too. It's just knowing that they're gonna last a long time and they're gonna be really difficult, but having experienced them before, it was a lot easier to like remember or not, like be aware of what was going on as it was happening. So, which is good
Yeah,
because like okay, I'm not even close to the top, even though it seems like I should be, and be okay with that, I guess.
sure. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so far as like sleep goes, from what last year was to, going into this year, did you think of like your sleep plan any differently?
So I definitely butchered sleep this year. And I was kind of trying to do the same thing because I felt like I did okay with sleep last year. But I would say that this year was very much not good. And I am going to use this knowledge going forward with races like this because I tried sleeping at the same refugio that I slept at last year, and I didn't sleep a wink this time. And I think it had to do with just too much caffeination, which is disturbing my brain. I just couldn't. I didn't sleep much until I don't even know when it was maybe 100K in. No, it was like at the third life base that I think I slept while I was getting my feet taped.
Was it at Donuts?
No, not even at Donis. It was the next one.
Okay, so that's
Yeah, which I
Gressinet.
don't even know what mile or kilometer that
Yeah,
is, to be
yeah,
honest. But yeah, it was really, really far in.
yeah.
So
We tried to get you to lay down at Barma, which was
mhm,
before that, and that was unsuccessful.
I did not sleep. Yeah, there were many instances where I would lay down and like the rest felt good, and but I just wasn't able to actually actually sleep, which was unfortunate. Barma, I didn't sleep.
Okay.
Donis, I laid down for about 20 minutes with my eyes closed, but did not sleep. And same with that refugio. But I had this whole like I came into Cognier, which was the what is that, the
About
100K mark.
100K. Yeah.
And I was like super unwell and like needed sleep there, but I knew I just wasn't able to, and I had this whole like crisis between Cognier and Donis, where at the first aid station, I asked them like where the next sleep spot was, and they told me not until Donis, which was really far, So
Mhm.
that's when I started caffeinating more. I was like, I either need to try to lay down and sleep on the trail because I'm really, really tired, but it's hard because it's just hard to do that sometimes,
Yeah.
unless you're just like ready to knock out. So I tried laying down a few times. I was like, this is just not going to work. So I was like, well, they gave me some coffee at that aid station. I think I might have been taking caffeine pills, but I think I overdid it.
Mm.
Um, so I definitely butchered it this year. And then I started finding that I think the reason I think I overdid the caffeine was because once I started taking more caffeine, I was actually getting sleepier.
Mm.
So I stopped caffeinating at all, like towards the middle to end of the race. Like there were a few instances where I would drink some coffee here and there, but I was like, I can't do the caffeine anymore because every time I do, I'm like a zombie on the trail. So there
Gotcha.
was definitely mistakes made in that
Yeah.
capacity.
That's hard at a race this long.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah.
to really get that right, and it's they were actually I laid down at Valgarnesh
Yes.
um because I was shivering so badly. They said because I needed a massage, like we can't massage you
Mhm.
until you stop shivering. So I laid down and I did fall asleep for a little bit and then stopped
Yeah.
shivering. But
There you
that
go.
it wasn't bad, like because you would expect such a big sleep station because this. I mean, you experienced Tahoe 200, and those are basically like a small tent with maybe like 8 to 10 bedrolls, whereas this it was like I couldn't even tell you how many cots, probably close to what, 50 maybe,
Yeah.
like it's such a big area with so many people, but it actually wasn't too bad. I mean, there's some coughing and stuff like that, but if you are sleepy you can just
Yeah.
down out. um
Absolutely.
so I like it is amazing the logistics of this race,
Mhm.
and the capacity that they serve because there's so many people in this race. um but like if we break this race down, let's go life base to life base, and we can just roughly say that from start to life base into the next life base is roughly about 50K, right? Like from
Yeah.
yeah.
Somewhere around there.
So if from starting in Courmayeur and going to Valgrenesh, like in that span, what was that for you? How was that? How are your legs doing? How are you? How did everything go for that section?
Yeah, so I started off the race and I remember I was just really hyper laser focused on running the first little because it starts off in Courmayeur, so it's a road section until you hit the trail. And I
Right.
was like, I gotta make sure I get a good place in the conga line because it
Mhm.
automatically like a ton of people just trying to
Yeah.
get on the trail at once. So
Right.
it
Yeah.
comes to a standstill essentially. So I was kind of booking it Not gonna lie. Which I didn't really need to be doing because who cares where you're at in that conga line? There's so much race, but that was my focus in that moment. So whatever.
Yep. Yep.
Um, got in the conga line and got a relatively decent spot, I guess, but I was definitely a little bit, your heart rate's high. You're everyone's kind of hiking, but hiking fast because it's the beginning. We're all
Yeah.
feeling good or whatever. So I started feeling it a little bit fat, like early on. I was like, oh, I think I got a little bit ahead of myself in this conga line. I don't need to be this speedy. So I rolled into the first aid station. I think it was lot, or maybe this was the second one, and this is where I saw crew, La Tui or
Yeah.
whatever
Cool.
it's called.
Yep. Yep.
And that's where I saw Bill and stuff. And I remember I was feeling a little like, okay, I started off a little too fast,
Mhm.
I didn't need to really be booking it like in this capacity. So I was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna recollect myself. I don't need to be like super focused on speed right now. I just need to be focused on taking care of myself and making sure that I'm able to have a good reset because there's a lot more ahead of me. So I tried to ease back. I did. It was really awesome because last year I did not talk to anybody really in the beginning of the race. And this year there were a lot of people who started conversations with me who were from the US. And um, I ended up following the next section from La Tui to I think to the next like life base, essentially, I was running with I think it was Howie Stern. He's like a race photographer.
Yeah.
He was running. It was really interesting talking to him. So we were kind of going back and forth, which was really nice to have company. And it made me kind of like I started feeling a lot better as the night approached as well. But that first night was the only night where we had any sort of like really bad weather. Not really bad, it was relatively not good. It was raining a little bit. There was one aid station we all rolled into, and the wind was whipping, and we had to get on our, like, I put on my rain pants, my hat, my gloves, like it was rain jacket. It was cold, but night started approaching. We got to the top of the climb, and I think I got hot again. It was really nice. Like the weather was really good this year. um, but yeah, and then I just was running it into the first life base, Valgrasench, right?
Mhm. Yep. Mhm.
That's the first one. And it was, I was a few hours ahead of my time from last year. I was feeling good. I took care of myself. I was eating. I had no issues in that moment. So I was, just enjoying the race and um yeah, hit that mark and left I think I left as quick as I could. I took care of myself, but I was like, yeah, things are great. Everything's good.
Mhm. Um,
um
then
yep,
let me ask you a question there because
yep,
I asked
absolutely.
Mike this question when I talked to him about the mammoth. Were you able to kind of stay present? And if so, like what strategy did you use to do so? Because this is where I broke down mentally.
Yeah.
I all of a sudden started thinking about, oh my God, I have like possibly 3 more nights of being alone.
Mm,
Because I wasn't around anybody, like whereas you were with Howie and talking to Howie, I was
yeah.
solo and recognized I might be solo for 3 more nights, which really started to play on me and it really broke me down. I was a mess when I got into Valgranish mentally. Well, physically too. My quads were shot. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
so in other words, like, here you are 50K in. This is a 330K race, so 280K to go. Were you able to stay present, not worry about the future? And if so, how did you do that?
Yeah. I Going into that aid station, I know that I spent that section, like I said, I was able to socialize, which was really cool, like with a few people. So I wasn't like, I was pretty tuned in to just kind of the race and what was going on. I don't remember future tripping at that point, which was good. Like I remember right before I came into the life base, I had called my parents because my dad kept calling me. I think he was just like he wanted to know how everything was, which was, they would just wanted to check in.
Yeah.
And I think I called my boyfriend, and everything was just like kind of pleasant for me in that moment. Like everything was just kind of settled. And just a lot of positive feelings. Um, so in that aid station, I was kind of on cloud nine versus like, I guess how you were feeling, quite the opposite,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But I can't say the same for the next life base, like I just happened to have a really good like really
Yeah.
good feelings leading up to that, which was good.
Good.
And cherish those while you can, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think I just felt guilt.
mm,
Like, and this is something I need to resolve. And it was more that, like, here I am in Italy with like all this beautiful stuff around, and my wife and one of my best friends are like
mm,
following me around, where like we all could be doing something, pretty amazing elsewhere, but here I
yeah.
am, like, I felt like almost selfishly, even though it was the point
Mm,
of being there, here I am selfishly going through the mountains, on this endeavor that, like, I didn't feel like I didn't feel the connection I usually do, because like
yeah.
Nathan usually comes out to pace me, but he's stuck, just kind of jumping in the car and following me around this course. And
Hmm.
that really weighed on me. I think now that, like, with the unfortunate outcome, like we got to go do everything that I was thinking in my head. So
Yeah.
like if we were to go back, I don't think I'd have those same emotions, but like I didn't count on that. Like I really
Mhm.
didn't count on that really coming into play. And that's what really weighed on me, was just the guilt I felt. And again, I wasn't really expecting that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's that, and they really had to like coax me and be like, dude, it's okay. That's what we're here for,
Hmm.
Um, but and Bill, he knows all these places. Your crew
Yeah.
person, like he is like such a wealth of knowledge. And you had the experience of doing this before, which is amazing. Yeah, I think I don't know if I shared this with you, but when I was sitting in that aid station, like having my pity party, the guy next to me was like, "Did you think that was hard?" And I was like, "Yeah, that was pretty hard." He was like, "It's just getting harder in the next section." And I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, and it just like, I mean, it just sank me. I was just like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Like my shoulders just slumped. I was just like,
Hmm.
I like I'm already broken down. How am I gonna go and do something harder? So it didn't help.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that
He was
that
right though.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, valid. It was true, but you know,
Just
you,
hearing
you,
those words. Yeah.
you were in a good place though, so that's great. So, but then you said
Yeah.
it kind of, and as it always does, it ebbs and flows. But
Mhm.
from that life base onto to Kanye,
Yeah.
what transpired in that next 50K?
Um, so that's like a really, like really hard section.
Yeah, and
So
the more like there was like more climbing, steeper
oh yeah.
climbs. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, and I remember, I couldn't remember when this was going to happen, but yeah, so it was just, I don't know if it's like 4 hour climbs, they might be 5 hours, but it's basically a few of these where you're starting in a village or in a town, and then you just start your climb from there, and
Hmm.
it just keeps going and going and going and going, and you hit the mountain, and you're just I mean, you're already going up the mountain, but you hit like the main section of the mountain, and you
Right.
just see all the people up ahead of you,
Right.
and they're just weaving, on these switchbacks, just weaving up and up and up and up and up and up. And that's the climb. And then you get to this you like, maybe you're climbing strong, but you get to a point where it's like it's still going. And
Yeah.
you've been going for so long that you just kind of hit, I didn't necessarily hit a wall, but I was climbing pretty strong most of the time, which was for better or worse, because that's when I stopped eating, and that's not ideal because you need energy to keep on climbing. um but you would just see, like, I remember there were lots of people around me, of course, and I passed a bunch of people, and we were kind of leapfrogging, and I saw this guy, he was just like passed out, seemingly passed out on a rock, just like muster up his energy just to keep going. And I had a lot of, I was kind of with a pack of people who were just like, this is absolutely unbelievable. How is this so hard? And it's good to like, it's nice to share those emotions. Cause I was like, don't worry, it's, don't worry, the next climb's similar, but this is the hardest one. At least I had that knowledge, but because you get to this, you think you're going to be at the top, but then it starts going like straight up essentially, and then you have to climb up, and yeah, they're just extremely difficult. And then once you get to
That's
the
the high
top,
point, right? That was the high point.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's Cole Lawson is like the second. It's either the first one we do or the second one we do, but yeah, it's about I think 10,000 feet or somewhere around there. But I'm pretty sure you're climbing up all the way to the top. It's just
Hmm.
gosh, it's just so much. Well, obviously you're climbing all the way to the top, but you're climbing. I don't know how many feet we're going, but it's a lot. Um, and then you have to go down and you have to descend that, which
Yeah.
is just as challenging because your legs are just like hooked from all of this climbing, and then the descents are not super fun.
No.
But at that point it's like it's not terrible, but I just remember the first climb we did, climbed down, ran down to the aid station. I don't remember which one it was, but Bill was there, and I was like laying down on the like yoga mat he brought, and I was like, like I am tired. Like I was really not doing well, and it was unfortunate because it's like I know that the next thing is just as hard, if not harder.
Hmm.
So it just had to rally, just had to eat a bunch and figure out like just get my energy back, and went off into the distance into the next climb, which was not actually as hard in my opinion as the first one. I was talking to someone after who I had like leapfrogged on or with the previous climb, and he thought that second one was harder, but I was like, I don't think so. I think there was just maybe it was just less intense towards the end, I think
Hmm.
was what it was. But yeah, that section is it's just filled with like soul sucking climbs. Like you are just going and going and going. And even if you know that this is what's coming, it's still very, very challenging to face. When you're it's still relatively early on in the race. And yeah. So I got to the next aid station after Cole Lawson was the one. I'm looking at this map right here.
Yeah.
It's the one that's right. Uh, okay, yeah. You climb up to Cole Lawson, then down to Refugio, and then it's a pretty short distance to Cognac. But I remember I was going so slow. Like I was just really, really tired. Bill thought I was gonna be to Cognac like super quick. I definitely wasn't because I was hitting this huge wall where I was like extremely sleepy. Like I was getting really, really sleepy, and I was like, this is bizarre because I think I need to sleep. Like I need to reset because something is terribly wrong. I actually started to feel almost sick. I was really congested, which is probably just from the dust and all of that. But I was like, I can't breathe when my nose is like, am I getting sick? Like, is something wrong?
Hmm.
So when I got to Cognac, I was coming in and Bill kind of looked at me funny. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like zombie walking, like my eyes were almost closing. Like that's how and I
Yeah.
was like, I need to sleep. And of course, I did not sleep at Cognac. I definitely tried, but I like laid outside. I tried laying in a bed in the big in the life base,
Mhm.
but didn't work out. So did not work out. Which was not ideal because that could have been a really good time to reset. But yeah, so I did leave that. I left that life base, and I was well ahead of my time from last year. I was doing pretty well in terms of that,
Mhm.
but I wasn't feeling good when I left. I was still just really tired, and I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to do the same thing I did last year. I'm going to sleep at that refugio that I know is I don't know which one it was, but I knew it was like a little bit in. It was probably about maybe 10, 15 miles in. because that was like the perfect spot for me last year. I was like ready to pass out at that point. So I was feeling optimistic about that. And then I talked, like I had mentioned previously, I talked to the people at the aid station. That was it was probably like 5 miles from the life base. And I was like, just to verify or like solidify my plans, I was like, hey, like when can I sleep next? And they told me not till Donis. And they said the refugios, like one of them shut down completely. And then the next one, which was the one that I slept at last year, they said there's no sleep. And I was like, I actually started crying. I was like, I'm tired. Like
Yeah.
I like, can I, like, there's gotta be something. And they're like, you want some coffee? So I was like, okay. And I kept on kind of trudging on. I was trying to figure out what to do. And this is like really stressful, when you're in
Yeah.
this state. And
Right.
I looked in my pack and I was like, shoot, like we took out my emergency blanket. It's not in my pack anymore. So I was like, okay, I can try to lay down with a jacket on and with pants, and like maybe I can try to sleep now, but like I'm too stressed out to sleep,
Yeah.
because I'm like stressing about sleep. So
Of
there's
course.
it's just not possible. And then I ran into this girl. I think her name was Sandra. She is from Puerto Rico, and she had a virus. Like she had gotten a virus like 3 days previously, so she was coughing
Oh,
and like
geez.
really congested. I know, and this was her fourth tour de Geant.
Gosh.
So she actually let me borrow her emergency blanket, which I laid down with, but once again, no sleep, had none at all. So after about 10 minutes, I got up. I was like, I'm just gonna keep going. That's the last time I'm gonna try to lay down because it's just not gonna happen. So yeah, she was struggling. She was an interesting person. I kept running into her. So she hadn't slept like either. So we were kind of both in the same boat, but I kind of passed her, and because she was still kind of fighting that virus. But I did get to that. We passed the refugio that was shut down, and I do remember that from last year being open. So I was like, "Oh, this kind of sucks," because I could really use some food right now.
Mhm.
And but eventually we got down to the refugio that was open, which was the one I slept at last year, and I was like, "Hey, can I sleep here?" And they said yes. They had the beds open. It was, I don't know what those other people, maybe they were just misinformed or whatever. So I
Sure.
was very grateful. I laid down, I think for an hour and a half maybe. Um, but I could feel my brain was just like circumnavigating itself, and like I was so relaxed, like it felt so good to be laying there. But just to like get that rest. But my brain was playing these games where it was just like I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe, but it would not let me sleep is the bottom line. But I got up feeling better. So, rest is still important, even if you're not sleeping. And then the next section was the descent to Donis, which is good. It's both good and bad. I was still like pretty tired physically, but it was really warm out. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
cold. It was pretty pleasant, like going through the villages. It was really funny though, because I was like, last year I feel like we were going through more towns, like it just felt different. This year there's more trail involved, and I was like, I just want a little bit of a break from all this technicality,
Yes.
because it's just exhausting. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a long descent, as it's about 10 to 12 miles or something like that, to Donis. And Donis is beautiful. It was morning time. I believe I think I got there around 9 a.m., which was pretty good timing. And it's like the lowest point of the race, and it's a life base as well. I think I don't know what elevation it's at, but yeah, you're just heading down, 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 and then you hit it. Um, I was feeling okay there. I wasn't feeling too bad. I tried laying down for about 20 minutes with my eyes closed. I rested, but didn't fully fall into sleep, unfortunately. Was just resetting there because I knew that the climb out was pretty long, as most of the climbs are. So I left Donis, and I really actually, for some reason, I really enjoy the climb out. it is long and the sun is beating down. It was hot, but it's just beautiful. It's gorgeous. There's cows and there's you go through all these like villages and towns and um yeah, it's really pretty. So I do like that climb a lot. And then you hit Refugio, it might have been Coda.
Hmm.
Yeah, I hit Refugio Coda, and that's a really nice one. You're kind of like, you finally get to the top, and that's where the Refugio is, and it's really beautiful. I believe it felt like we were in the clouds, like the clouds were like level to where we were at, and yeah, I was in really good spirits there. And I had a good section from Refugio Coda to Barma. I actually saw some glaciers people while I was out there, and it's like almost like celebrity sightings, because
Yeah.
like that they have been out there for like
Right.
for a long time, and
Yeah.
they're in their own little universe. Because it's been many, many hours more since they've been out there. But yeah, and then I got to Barma, and then that's where I saw you and Nathan and your wife, and Bill, of course. So that was, I ate some mochi.
Yep.
That's nope, Noki,
Noki.
not Moki. And tried to lay down there as well. Once again, there was a wait for the bed, but it was a good time to kind of eat and try to get as many calories and liquids in there. I wasn't tired though, I remember. So we did think that laying down would be a good idea, which I agreed, but I wasn't like super like, okay, I could pass out right now, unfortunately. So I think I don't know, maybe there was still just too much caffeine in my system. That's what I'm thinking, was because I just overdid it, and that it was just like keeping me wired, which was just not great, not ideal at all. So yeah, I laid down there and I left, and oh God, as we all know, leaving the aid stations is just so hard because you're just shivering and cold, and after your body has just rested for a little bit. But then oh God, it was such a terrible. That is one of the worst sections of the race, in my opinion. Like the climbs during up between Valgrisench and Coney are hard, but from Barma to the next life base, it's just like it's miserable because it's what I call the boulder section. It's like I was getting really after Barma, of course, I was getting sleepy, like super sleepy, but we were climbing up and I can't, there's like nowhere to lay down. But it's like to the point where I feel ready to lay down, which is really, really hard to be fighting that as you're going up this climb. Because like, the more you climb, of course, the more that's going to happen is that you're going to get sleepier and sleepier because you're just using so much energy.
Yep.
But I was like fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And then we hit the boulder section, which is just like, there's like, it's kind of hard to describe, but it's just a bunch of rocks, just a ton of, I guess it's not that hard. There's a bunch of rocks, there's flags, and you have to, but it's nighttime. So you're navigating through these like loose boulders and you have to find the path, and it's up and up and up for a while, of course. So it just takes a lot of energy to navigate through these rocks and finding the correct path, because it's easy to get off the path and be like kind of struggling to keep balance and keep you have to like once you know you're off the path, you have to stop and you have to like maybe backtrack a little bit and keep going up and finding the right sections that are stable and all of that. And naturally, I was the one leading whatever the pack I was in, which was also unfortunate because the leader is the one who's uh, using the most energy. And I know I had mentioned this to you guys, but the guys that I was with, like I would stop for a minute and like I had to eat or drink or something like that, and they stopped behind me because I think they wanted me to keep leading. They would not go by me, which was fine, but especially because you get to the top and then there's this descent, which is even worse. Oh my gosh. Especially if you're not a good descender, which I am not the best descender in the world. There was a sign at the top that said "Atención," and then it was a picture of a guy, and he was like slipping down the mountain. So it was like, or falling. And then there were ropes at the at the top of that descent, so that because you had to hold on to those as you're like slipping down, in order to get to the section that was like less technical. Well, it was still very technical, but less steep, I guess. So yeah, that descent was just awful. Like people, I'm very impressed with some people, like a lot of the Italian people, and just there was just a lot of people around me who just like they just have this way of like doing like moving their feet that's just so impressive, just going down this like really technical terrain, that I just didn't have, or I don't have, but that's something to work on eventually maybe. But it's just like that confidence in like, okay, I can
Yeah.
navigate these rocks and
Right.
all this kind of stuff. But I think the Italians definitely have the home trail advantage if they do train out there. Like some of them, it's a big country, so maybe they don't all go
Yeah.
out there, but yeah, it's a lot of technical terrain that's really, it's scary if you trip and
Oh
it's
yeah.
so easy to like almost trip and fall so many times as but yeah, I know that section was very challenging. And then the next life base was, I think it was Valtrenesh. Um
Wait,
I believe.
Gresene, or did you already pass Gresene?
Which was that a life phase? Then yeah, that was the next one. That I don't remember what that one was even. Valternesh and okay, maybe that was the one where I slept. I think that was probably where I got my feet taped again, and then that's where I slept for the first actual time. Yes, yeah, I believe it was because that was um yeah, that was my first sleep time. So that was definitely much appreciated. I definitely needed to get my feet retaped because my feet were getting the tape was really just not great anymore. And I think I had a blister. Yeah. And I think it might have been from the tape because you're descending so much that the tape eventually gets out of place. Like
Mhm.
there's, it gets messed up.
Yep.
So the woman took care of me. There was a wait there. I probably waited for about 20, 30 minutes to get my feet taped, which made me anxious because I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be sleeping. But I passed out on the table. Um, and then just got going from there. And then the next section to Valternesh. Don't really, I don't even remember. I'm trying
That's okay.
to
Do you
remember.
were you doing better on nutrition?
Yeah, I know that nutrition was definitely much better because I was really kind of kicking myself for messing up early on, because early on is like the most important time to not be messing up. I mean, it's all important, but it's good to have that in your,
Yeah. I,
to not to just be consistent throughout. But
I forget,
um
like, when did you even realize that you were running low on nutrition? Because, Bill reached out to us and was like, "Hey, do you have any extra stuff? Because she's running low."
yeah, so I still had a ton left over, so I think maybe it was just
Mm.
I had I maybe I didn't realize.
Or maybe it was
There were
that you were
some
just getting
gels and
sick
stuff.
of what you had.
Yeah, that was probably part of it. That was probably a huge part of it. And I definitely appreciate you you guys helping us out because I utilized those gels a lot well, it was like basically what I used for the rest of the race. In between the aid stations because I wanted so badly to like eat more real foods in between, but it's really hard. It's really hard because there's not really that many options at the aid station to like put in your pack. And
Right.
then if you don't have things that like, so I would just kind of fuel up as much as I could just at the aid stations and stuff. So yeah, I did not know that I was low, but it makes sense. It does make sense if you're not a huge planner and all of that, but it all worked out.
Right. Yes. Yep.
So that's good.
Yep.
Um
Yeah. Because like Bill kept updating us that you were, kind of 3 hours ahead of like and I don't remember if it was where you were last year or of that like 130-hour time goal to
Uh-huh.
qualify for. So he was, and you were past Valternesh.
Yes.
um,
Which I'm trying to remember what that even looks like. For some reason, those two life bases I always like are kind of a blur, I think.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
It's you're deep into the race by this point.
Yeah.
You're well over, let's see, 50, 100, 150, 200. So by the time you get to Valternesh, you're already like, around 250K into this. So, I mean, you're,
I think that might have been the one where there was one life base that I completely missed. Um, I ran past it.
oh, that's
It might
right.
have been that one.
Yeah.
I was really upset about that. And I started going up on the trail again. And then I realized another guy had done that too. He made it all the way to the next AIDS, like Refugio,
Oh my goodness.
before realizing. And I had talked to him about it because yeah, he was like, some people might have dropped after that, but I didn't. And I was like, yeah, you did great. I understand. I don't know why. It was because it was weird. Like I saw the life base and I went, but they didn't have arrows going to it. So I was like, oh yeah, it's probably like they're going to loop us around. But anyway, I went back and crisis averted. I do remember that one now. I do
Yeah.
remember what that one looks like.
Gotcha.
That was the one I passed.
Yeah, it's because you
Not
have to
fun.
check in, right? Or else you're
You do.
defeated. Yeah.
And it's important to be there to kind of get all your stuff and get food. And um, I did try to sleep there. I think I did sleep there. But yeah, I was a few hours ahead, but it was stressing me out. It was the time stuff was stressing me out because I
Mhm.
was like, at this point, I was like, I need sleep. Like I know it's good to be ahead of schedule. But then, of course, a piece of me is like, I want to be ahead of the schedule. I want to keep doing well. It feels good to be doing well in terms of that time goal. And so um, I was nervous. So I would be sleeping and trying to take care of myself. And Bill, at first, he wasn't going to make it to that life phase, but he did come like towards the end and helped me get packed up and all that. But I had to wait for him and I was getting stressed out because I had to wait, which it was better that he was there to like help me make sure I had everything. But yeah, but the reason I was stressed out was just because of the time goal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, I need to go. Like I need to get out of here. Which kind of brings it down a level of like I'm so tired and I need to take care of myself, but I also was just like, yeah, I just need to get out. But yeah, I mean, I took care of myself as best as I could there. I did eat. I slept. I did everything I needed to do, which was good. And then kind of started off. And I knew that section from Valternesh to Oyas was not. Oyas is not a life base, but it looks like it is
On the map.
on this map.
Yeah.
But it is actually before the life base, but it's kind of a bigger aid
Aid
station.
station. Yeah.
But I leading up to Oyas, I was okay until I wasn't in terms of sleep because I was like I was really 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 getting tired and I was running with that girl from Puerto Rico and in that section. Yeah, I do remember that very well. She wanted me to be behind her because she was so tired that she was like, in case I weave off the trail or something, it'd be better if you were
Yeah.
behind me to like,
Grab you.
you know,
Grab her.
keep
Yes.
track.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like I'll be behind you as much as I can. Um, but yeah, that was pretty. And she was telling me how she was like, she was hallucinating heavy because she hadn't slept yet and stuff. And
Mm.
I was like, you need to sleep. Like, I know I need sleep, but like, you need to sleep.
Yeah.
Because she was telling me how this had never happened before, but she was like, like she would think that she was in a parking lot in a supermarket, and then she would wake up almost and she was on the trail just standing still and I was like, oh gosh, like that's not safe, but none of this is that safe, so whatever.
Right.
um but Oyos, which is not a life base but a bigger life station, I got, or bigger aid station, I did get to, and I was like, I need to sleep desperately. So I really tried, but I did not. I didn't sleep. I tried in there were beds they line the wall within the aid station, so there's everybody's in the middle and the beds are around the surrounding it, and
Mm,
it's just too noisy for me. I
yeah.
can't do the noise. And
Gotcha.
then I tried again. There was a tent outside where they had beds as well, but I laid down there, but something just kept me from sleeping. Couldn't do it. Even though I was like real tired, really,
Yeah.
really tired. And it was really catching up to me, that this like deep fatigue, you know. And okay, so from Oyas to Alama, there might have been a time in between there too where I was having trouble breathing. I can't specifically remember which section it was on, but it was within this time frame. I was like, I couldn't breathe. Like I was, it was like asthmatic symptoms. It was getting worse and worse as I was climbing. So I got to a refugio, and I think I laid down for an hour, maybe even two, because I was like really tired. I was like, I just need to rest. And I don't think I slept, but I was like, this is great. But I knew I was at elevation too. I think it was about 9,000 feet up, which isn't great for recovery if there is any sleep involved. But I needed that.
Yeah.
So after I left, I could breathe again. Everything was fine, which was good. So I think that was just a necessary thing. And then from Oyas to Alamont, I don't quite remember. I know that I was not at my best. I was ready to sleep still. I was just like, okay, Almont is the 50K left mark.
Yep.
So it's a very important and exciting landmark. But yeah, I really need, like, sleep was really catching up to me once again. And I um prioritized it there. So there was a tent. It's really unfortunate. It wasn't even indoors. It was a big tent, so it got cold pretty quickly. Um, but I believe I laid there for about 2 hours, and I did sleep a little bit in the beginning part. And then the last hour, I really could have gotten up, and I should have gotten up, but I remember I was just like super, super tired. So I was just like, I'm just gonna. We said 2 hours. I'm just gonna try, because at this point I was yeah, there's just something in me that was just like, I just need to rest wherever I can, because I'm just things are slipping, you know.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I spent some time there, but leaving Alamont was really, really hard, because I was so sleepy, and I ate, and like Bill was like, you need to get out of here by 5:30 a.m. And time was just going by, and I was like, I don't even want, it was just a low moment.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was really a tough moment. And it was also tough because I was making comparisons. Like last year at that point, I was running with a girl named Kirsty, and she was from the UK, and we left Almont together, and it was really nice because we had someone to run with
Yeah.
and kind of spend the last little bit together. This year I left alone, and it was just really a really tough like moment for me, because I
Mm.
was just really just down, because being that tired, it's just hard to keep the energy up, and the positivity all the time. So yeah, leaving that was tough, but I did, once the sun comes up, it always helps. And then it got hot, of course, but but it helped. I was starting, the climbing was really, I was going real slow at first out of there, like really slow. And then I hit the next refugio, which was really, I really loved that one. It was just on the side of a mountain, and I ate something, and just after I ate, my legs started coming back a little bit, and I climbed and climbed, of course, to, it was like Col, I think it was Champion, and they have like all these flags leading up to it, like a ton of flags, and they have flags on top of it because it's like champion, like I think it's like, oh, you're a champion. It was cute. I remember that well. And then from there, you're kind of descending, and the next section isn't too hard. There's you're like descending into this like townhouse almost, where it seems like it's just like a farmer's home or something like that. And then you go in, that's the aid station. And then the next section is kind of flat and then downhill. But I was um, really tired, like sleepy.
Yes.
So I actually I stopped a handful of times, I think maybe 3 times, and I would just like sit on the side of the trail just with my poles out, and I would just like put my head down and just like close my eyes, and I set my alarm maybe for 5 to 10 minutes or like even 20, but I would never sit for that long because I don't know why. I would just I had this anxiety. I was like, I am resting, but then this anxiety would hit and I'd be like, I have to keep going, you know?
Hmm.
But then I would keep going, and then I would get to that level of like I have to sit and like rest my eyes again. I have to.
At this
So
point, were you still worried about time?
yeah, I'd say maybe. I mean, I there was this part of me that was didn't care, but there's just a sense of pride of like I am doing well, and I of course want to keep that going. But I knew that things were kind of deteriorating at that point, in terms of time.
Hmm.
And I also knew that last year I had ended really strong, and I'm like, that is why I made up so much time last year. Like that's why I was able to like kind of finish in the time frame that I did. And like if I can't have a strong finish like that, like because I was running it in like maybe the last 10, 15 miles. I don't really remember how long I was running, but I was running, and it was like running with this energy that I don't know where I got it from, but so every race is different, you know, and it's like
Absolutely.
this is just where I'm at right now, and it would be awesome. It's so good if I do better than last year or better than hit my time goal, all of that. But with the amount of fatigue I was feeling of just like exhaustion, like sleepiness, I was like, I'm just fighting to stay awake at this point. um, so yeah, I got to. I can't. It was Refugio or Rosati. That is the last one where I saw. That was not it. It was one of the refugios. I can't remember which one it was, or aid stations where I saw Bill for the last time,
Hmm.
and I was just, I was very tired. We had 30K left to go. You know, that's a huge monumental moment, but things were just they it was just hard. Like it's hard, I don't know how many miles this was. I think it was 180, 190 at this point. And I just was so like my watch was dying. It was like at 5% and my watch charger wasn't working. So we were like stressed about that. And then I was just at this point where I was like, I don't care if my watch dies. I don't, it doesn't matter. I just like this is just none of this matters. I just need to keep going, and whatever, I have nothing left. I felt like I had nothing left at that point. And I knew that like this was obviously just it's gonna be I knew what climb I had ahead of me. Malatra isn't that bad. And I'll talk about the Colt Malatra in a second. But it's the climb before that to the next refugio that's just so long, and it's just so I mean, they're all hard, but this is just a particularly challenging one because it's one of the last few climbs. I
Hmm.
mean, and leaving that aid station, I was really down on myself, and I just did not feel good. I felt unconfident. I don't know. There was just a lot of just exhaustion, and I was just it's easy to just get kind of overcome by that, and just kind of um just feel super down on yourself. But I made a few phone calls. I was able to like call my boyfriend and my dad, and we kind of just they lifted me up and helped keep the energy going. Like my boyfriend, he was vital in that section for me because luckily, thank God I had service, and I was a zombie walking. Everyone was passing me. Like not everybody, but I was getting passed and passed and passed. I had to sit down many times. I wanted to sleep so badly, but it was too hot. It was so hot. We were getting cooked. Like, and I forgot to emphasize that in this race, it was hot the whole time almost. But he talked me through getting to that next aid station, which was really good, or to the next refugio, because I was really just doubting myself, and like I didn't know how I was gonna get to the end because of how my legs were absolutely done. So once I got to Refugio Risati, um, I was I was contemplating, like, can I sleep here? Do I sleep here? Should I? I'm so close to the end. Is there any point in sleeping here? But I was gonna ask one of the volunteers there if they were sleeping. I don't think there was, but they were all gathered together and like talking to this one guy, and they were like all kind of focused on that. So I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a sign that I should just keep going. So I ate pasta and I got a little bit of energy back in my legs from eating, not a ton, but enough to get up the Malatra, which is the last climb of the race. And it's I don't even I don't even consider it to be the hardest necessarily. I think it's just hard in terms of it is more of a scramble than anything else, but it's much shorter. So it's not like you're climbing for 4 hours. It's like an hour, maybe less. So which is super doable, you know.
Hmm.
So once I was like crawling up the because it is like very unstable, but you have ropes and stuff. I was inching my way up, but once you get to the top of that, you know, it's you're really close to the end, but not close enough to really be done. So, yeah, I think it's probably about maybe 20K to the end or somewhere around there. Probably, I don't really know, maybe 15 miles, something like that. Which is it's pretty long, but I was just getting really sleepy. So I was trying really hard to run. At first, after I got over the Malatra,
Hmm.
it was still daylight, which was really like, you know, last year I was like, oh, last year at this time, it was dark. It was getting dark. So I'm still doing well. You know, I'm still doing okay, time wise, like whatever. But I just that last section, and this is a normal thing, I was not doing well. Um, it was it's runnable. It's more flowy downhill, some flat, like there are some ups here and there, but it's like it's not like the rest of the course. So if you have it in you, then running it is a possibility.
Hmm.
And getting to the end quick is a possibility. But this year was not that for me. So there was a few stopping and laying down because I was just at that point where I just needed sleep. I stopped at one of the second to last refugio.
Bonatti.
Yes. Yes. They let me lay down like in a chair or like I put my legs up on a chair. They gave me like 12 minutes and then they pushed me out. It was very funny. Like they were very energetic. They were telling me to get out and that's fine. You know, that's their job. I was very tired and like a little frustrated because I was like, I just need to sleep forever. You know, I just need to rest. No one understands. But I was basically just walking it in to the next aid station and it took really long. It took a long time. And I kept having to sit down and like, because I just was really fighting to stay awake, which was unfortunate because, yeah, I think it was just all the lack of sleep had caught up to me. But yeah, got to the next refugio. I thought that there was another one in between until like in between until the end, but
Hmm.
there actually wasn't. So I was like, oh, 4 kilometers left, not bad. But that downhill descent is terribly technical and terribly just like steep down. And I slowed down exponentially going down that even like I was because I couldn't even if I tried to run, like I would be tripping over things, like because my legs were so done and I could barely lift up my feet enough to be
Yeah.
considered running. So it wouldn't even be considered running. It would just be like, yeah, barely fast walking. So yeah, I went really slow down there. So I got to the road finally, and I think I walked it in for the most part, which I wish I could have had more energy. But that section, that technical downhill, made me really grumpy. I was very grumpy after that because it just was so painful, and I was in so much pain, and I was like starting to feel sick almost, I think, because maybe I wasn't eating as much, and I was just like, just the amount of pain I was in. Which is understandable. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
um so yeah, and then I got to the finish line. I think it was I did it in 134-ish hours, I believe,
Mhm.
which was not faster than last year, and definitely didn't hit my Glacier's goal because of just it was really the last section where things started kind
Yeah.
of falling apart. But that is can't predict that,
Right.
it just happens.
Yeah.
It's hard to mitigate that or figure out like you just got to kind of accept that this is what's happening, but it is a hard race. So finishing at all is a huge thing, and I know that people, a lot of things happen during that race that make it un, make people not finish it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, I am very proud of the efforts, and I learned a lot that I'm going to take a lot of this knowledge, especially the sleep stuff and the
Yeah.
caffeine stuff, and because that's, I think, a big make or break type thing right there was like the sleep, and I think that's really what got me in the end was um just not getting enough sleep, and the body doesn't recover, so you're just rambling along and so much pain, and sleep heals a lot. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah,
incredible. It was
yeah,
incredible. And it was
thank
cool to
you.
be there at the finish.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
was so good to see you guys there.
we were so happy. Because we had been tracking you as much as we can, and I'll say for anybody that's crewing for this, the trackers can be nefariously bad.
Right,
Because
absolutely.
it had Rachel coming out of the aid station, and then all of a sudden it had her, but back behind the aid station, which we know she had already checked into, and then
Hmm.
so. But it did have some safety devices, and I was kind of talking to Carrie Barris, she's the RD or one of the RDs for Hellbender,
Uh-huh.
and she was out at Hard Rock when the woman passed away. She was actually a part of the volunteer crew, and she was with the
Oh wow.
sweepers. She was like in charge of the sweepers, and got the call about the woman. Uh,
Yeah.
and talking about the safety of this race, as you said, it's quite a dangerous race, as I proved. But
Mm.
just the fact that the GPS devices were optional. That's
Mhm.
an odd
What?
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that should be, I mean, kind of mandatory for a race like this.
Yeah.
Especially if you get in trouble, to have that call button.
Absolutely.
Um. So I mean, I'm so glad you made it unscathed, especially as tired as you were.
Yeah.
Because like you
Yeah.
said, there's so many technical sessions. Um. Yeah, and we were talking before the call started, and they weren't privy to that conversation, but you had talked about you're not quite sure what's next. You're excited that there's potential out there.
Oh yeah.
And any and I've told everybody this too. Like, I'm not sure if I'll go back. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
On going back, it is. I probably, definitely, probably not this next year. I did it 2 years in a row, and both years solidified that this is an exponentially difficult race, and I completed it both times. And I think that there's so many other races out there that, like, it is so hard that I don't need to do that every year just to prove something. Sometimes I'm like, am I just trying to prove something to myself? Like, I've already proved to myself that I can do this
Yeah,
twice.
right.
I don't need to prove to myself any further.
Sure.
But I think eventually, yes. I think that once I'm in a financially better spot, and just like, I just kind of need to reset in terms of this race, because there's so much to it, and it takes so much out of you, and there's so much beauty and magic in it, but a lot of pain, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
pain.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, eventually I think if I want to hit that Glacier's goal, maybe, but yeah, I think that there's a lot of other things to explore as well,
yeah.
that it's easy, I'm the type, like, I am a race repeater until I'm like, okay, I'm never going to do this race again. That was me with Cruel Jewel. I did it like 3 years in a row, and now I'm like, I can't. I'm done. It's run its course, and it's a wonderful race. Like, I loved it and still love it, but yeah, I mean, I've experienced it in two different ways now for Tour de Geant, and I think I'm good for a little bit. Yeah, I'm good. If I
Great.
never go back again, that's okay, because I
Yeah.
have done this race twice and
Yeah.
completed it both times. So
Yes. That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome. Very awesome. Um, and um, if people want to connect with you, as you said, you kind of came off Instagram, but
Yeah.
any good way to connect with you?
I mean, I got Strava, Rachel
Mhm.
Blinn.
Yep.
That is really my only social media,
Sure.
quote unquote, social
Yeah.
media. So
Yeah.
other than that, like,
Yeah.
yeah, but happy to talk about the race.
Cool.
Definitely a lot of
You have a lot of insight.
insight into this one. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. And thank
Mhm.
you again, Rachel, for sharing your story here, because it was pretty impressive to follow you, through this whole race, especially being as close as we were to where you were,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like we oftentimes, all three of us, Beth, Nathan, and I all had the tracker up, and we're checking in on you and
Yeah.
some of the others that we met and knew. So it's a pretty special event,
Mhm.
and just so happy for you that you had the finish, especially fighting through the end like you did. That was
Yeah.
pretty awesome. So
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Um, as we said, we're not sure what's next, but I'm sure you're going to find something pretty
Yeah.
epic and awesome. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited about it. Excited about figuring it out, because
yep,
I want it to really, really be something that I'm super excited about. Because it's easy to just put things on the calendar just because you feel like you have to.
yep,
But I'm in this mindset where it's like I need it to be something that's like really gonna be something I'm like really amped up about. So
awesome,
that's the motivation.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for your time, Rachel, and for
Yeah,
sharing this with us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you.
Once again, thank you, Rachel, and congratulations. It was amazing to see Rachel come through this and complete this exhausted, just, putting it all out there and finishing. So proud of her, as a friend, as a coach. It was amazing to be there to see it and be a part of it. Very inspiring, and still gives me that, do I really want to go back and do it? Because I haven't been able to answer that. So we'll see. They just announced the dates for the Tour de Geants next year. They will start on September 11th and run through the 20th, I believe. So we'll see. No word on the lottery just yet, but once again, congrats to Rachel. Want to say I do have a few spots remaining for coaching. So if you're interested in coaching, please reach out, and all the ways to do so are found in the show notes. And now to answer Matt's question. Now, just to give you some background, I described, the long run with kind of anaerobic intervals or max VO2 intervals. We call the workout on the 7s, on the 8s, or on the 9s. So you can do this any which way you want, depending on how long of an interval you really want. Matt is a cross-country coach, and we're always looking for ways to kind of fit in workouts, especially if we have like a race during the week. So with what I've kind of found is that if we're racing on, say, a Tuesday or a weekday, and it's really hard to squeeze in another workout during the week, I fit it into the long run on the weekend. Now, I try not to mix systems too much. I try to develop a system and kind of go systematically. Now, every once in a while we do. And this workout is a good one if, perhaps you want to decrease the volume of the long run, but, have some intensity. So as I described to Matt, that when we're working the anaerobic system, when we're working on basically, in essence, someone's max VO2, we want to diminish or decrease the overall volume of the week. We can't do high intensity and maintain high volume. That's just creating too much fatigue and creating potential for injury. So we want to be careful how much volume we're doing in that anaerobic phase of training. Usually this is getting closer to the peak season. We've gone through our threshold phase. We've worked through, threshold with the kids. We've done threshold, lactate threshold intervals. Now we're kind of topping off the tank, if you will, kind of increasing that fitness ceiling, trying to work on increasing their max VO2, as we near to the finale of the season. Here we are getting into the, conference championships, state qualifiers and states. So really we're working on turnover, getting them fast and ready to race in these challenging and highly competitive events. So that's why we're doing it this time of year. But again, this is the time to kind of decrease the volume. We've had enough time, from the beginning of the season till now to really get in plenty of volume. They should be, really good in their aerobic capacity. And now we're working on the anaerobic capacity. So, these intervals, the way it works is I usually have them warm up for, upwards of somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes, depending on what the interval is, because as the title notes, it's we start the interval on whatever the number is. So if it's on the nines, then you're starting it on the digits that end in 9. So the first interval would begin on 19, and then you would take rest, or basically run until 29, do another interval, so that would bring you to 30, and then you would run until 39, do another interval, right? So if it's 1 minute intervals, you're basically every 9 minutes you're doing an interval. Okay, so again, we start at 19 minutes, do an interval, that'll be 1 minute, brings you to 20 minutes, you run for 9 minutes, do another interval. So, every segment's about 10 minutes of total time. Typically with these, I try to simulate 5K race time. So in other words, the duration of a 5K race. Now with 1 minute intervals, I'm not going to do, 15 of those. So yeah, that's why I kind of do on the 8s or, on the 7s. So you have 2 or 3 minute intervals, and I can do, 5 to 6 by 3 minutes, or 7 to 8 or 9 by 2 minutes, thus totaling somewhere between like 14 to 18 minutes of total time. And 2 minute intervals are great. They allow the heart rate to kind of get up in zone and stay in the zone for kind of an optimal amount of time, whereas 1 minute it takes some time to get up into that zone 5, if you will. And we don't sustain it for long enough to really get enough out of that duration of an interval. So that's why doing intervals of 2 to 3 minutes are more optimal. So if we're doing on the 8s, now here we start the intervals at 18 minutes. They would go 2 minutes, which brings them to 20 minutes. Then they would run until 28, and then do another 2 minutes, and so on and so forth. So that's the way we do these. And then you can extend the cooldown you want if you want to add a little bit more volume, or you can just have them kind of finish out that that last jog recovery interval to finish out the long run, if you like. I typically bring my team out to a rolling dirt road. I like to include some uphill and downhill on these. They obviously love the downhill when they hit an interval and hate the uphill when they hit an interval, but it's so good, for cross country runners to build that strength, and it's easier if they're doing an uphill interval to really get that heart rate up, and sustain that heart rate much quicker, because the hill challenges the heart even more. Now, the downhill, you just have to be careful. Obviously we want them going fast. So I tell them on the downhills, don't worry so much about like really trying to get that same effort, like focus on just the turnover. And that's what I want them to focus on, is being efficient running downhill. So, we mix it up, but I like having it on dirt. And like I said, with rolling hills, I think that creates an ideal situation for our cross country runners. So, a complete workout for us. We get to the trailhead. We do an active warm up. You can find the active warm up, on my YouTube channel. I will try to include that in the show notes, just making note to do so. And then, they take a swig of fluids and then start their warm up. And as I said, warm up, if we're doing, on the 8s, we typically warm up till about 18 minutes and then start hitting our intervals. Okay. So again, depends on how much volume you want to do. You can control that, the amount of intervals to control the volume. Now you're still getting a great workout if you get 6 or 7 in, with 2-minute intervals, 8 minutes run, an 18-minute warm up. So you're getting in 6 intervals. Let's see, that's 60 minutes right there. So potentially, let's see, that's 70. About 70 to 80 minutes of a long run. So, great time out there. And then we get back, we do a little bit of stretching and call it a day. So anyway, super easy way to get a good workout in here at the end of the season, especially, if you've got like your weekday meets. It's a nice way to kind of throw in an extra workout into the week without slamming the kids with a Friday workout and Sunday long run. So I'm not a big fan of doing that. I believe day after a workout, especially an anaerobic workout, that needs to be a recovery day. So that's why I throw it into the long run so that Sunday can be a recovery day for the kids. So just some thoughts there. If that provokes questions, comments, concerns, feel free to touch base with me. Happy to, have a conversation about it. So, but I hope that helps, Matt. Hope that helps you and any other coaches out there. Keep those questions coming. Really appreciate that. And, once again, thank you, Rachel, for our conversation. Thank you guys for listening. Next week, we're going to have Mike Reardon's conversation. Mike finished the Cocodona 250 as well as the Mammoth 200 this year. So we kind of touch base about, his experiences throughout. He also hiked the Wonderland Trail, did a 100-mile hike. So pretty awesome year for Mike. And so we'll talk next week. I've already recorded the conversation, as you probably heard in this conversation, but in respect to the dates of the events, Rachel had finished up before Mike, so I put out her episode first. So Mike's will come out next week. So look forward to that. And until next time, my friends, keep moving forward. Running is life.